Front Range Travel Counts is here, talking about the transportation use of Front Range. And it's very appropriate that it's here at the Alliance Center, because our mission at the Alliance is to get people to work together. And this is a perfect example today of people working together for the long-term interests of the Front Range. The Alliance has 35 nonprofit tenants. It's a nonprofit itself. It's a nonprofit-owned building. And as you can see from the signs, we have LEED certifications, and we use this as an educational opportunity, and particularly as an opportunity for groups to work together and use this as a community resource and asset.
Everybody got their own survey for a 24-hour period on a Monday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are different travel patterns, and they're not an average travel. So on a Monday through Thursday, we asked them for a 24-hour period. Every trip that everybody in that household made was journaled. We documented. And because it was done for the whole Front Range and not for just one MPO, we got much more detailed data.
There are more than 14 million total trips made in our region among the 4 million residents that we have. Now, one might think that most of those trips are made for work, but in reality they really aren't. We have about 3 million, or 22% of the trips are work trips, which means we have 11 million trips that are associated with education, going to school, shopping, medical, social, recreational. Those are really the trips that can have a huge impact, as well as those that are for work trips. On average, the Front Range residents take 3.5 trips by car per day. So think about that, 3.5 trips by car in every household. And only about 7% of all trips are made by walking and biking. In Colorado's Front Range, the average bike trip distance is 1.7 miles. So now we have in Colorado about 2 million bicycles in the entire region, which averages out to about 1.3 bicycles per household. And that's just slightly above the national average, which is about 0.86, somewhere around in there, per household. All right? Now, the survey revealed that nearly 30% of all trips in the region are made by car. And even though they're shorter than the average length of a bike trip distance. Right? So you're starting to get, here now we're using the car a lot for trips that could be made by biking and walking. So about 4 million of the trips we make in the region each day could easily be made by biking. Now, let's talk a little bit about walking. The average walk distance reported in this survey is 0.4 of a mile, less than half a mile, all right? And 80% of all those trips are still made by car. Yeah, I heard someone go, oh, wow. These trips represent about 1/3 of all the trips in the region. So nearly, when you start thinking about the distances that we could be walking and biking, almost 2 out of the 3 trips that we make by car, we could be doing by biking or walking.
If Front Range residents were to start considering biking and walking for their short trips, there's a potential for great environmental improvements. If all driving trips of less than the average bike distance of 1.7 miles in the Front Range were made by biking or walking, we could bring about some big air quality, air pollutant reductions. The region would save 13,748 tons of carbon monoxide, 24 tons of tailpipe pollutants, 803 tons of volatile organic compounds, and 872 tons of nitrogen oxides every year. We'd also be reducing greenhouse gas emissions by almost 400,000 tons a year. That's enough to fill Invesco Field over 50 times. We'd also save gas and lessen our reliance on foreign oil supplies. And biking and walking also bring about monetary savings. The AAA says that the average annual cost to own and operate a standard car sedan in the U.S. based on 15,000 miles of annual driving is about 58 cents a mile, or almost $9,000 per year to operate.
What do you do with the information now that you have?
Well, there's a couple of different things. I think each one of our areas would handle it a little differently. For us in the North Front Range, we do a couple of different things. It's a very informational thing for elected officials. The elected officials are very keen on wanting to know how people in their region travel, what's important to them as far as getting back and forth. It also talks about some of the demographic issues. For example, in Greeley, we have a pretty large contingent of people that walk to work. We need to explore a little bit more why that happens. So there's that political side of that. We also use it on a more technical analysis. A lot of this information goes into what we call travel demand models, which is this For those of you that have any familiarity, it's a gravity model that says how do people travel and how do they get from point A to point B. So it helps us with that, and then those travel models help us project into the future where we're going and how that information would be used in the future. And it also helps us what I call what-if scenarios. So what if we build a new road or a new trail or a new bus route? What happens? What is that? What happens to the traveling public? How would they respond to that? So sort of in a nutshell, that's what we do with that information.